everyone. Welcome to Rebecca and Rebecca, where we love books. My name is Rebecca Yager, and I'm coming to you from Dallas, Texas. And my partner in books is Rebecca Reed from Indiana. How are things, Rebecca?
Very well, thank you.
Good. Are you enjoying your
Summer's
summer?
going.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
We're digging into summer. It's June, or will be June when this airs, but yeah, it's almost June actually.
Almost June.
Yeah, it's the year's going by so quick.
It is.
Um, Today, we're going to have some fun and we're doing something a little different. We are doing a book review and author interview all in the same time. So you're getting a two-for-one special today if you're joining us. And our fun interviewee is the lovely and talented Rebecca Reed. Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay. We thought, let's spotlight Rebecca. Her second book came out. It's called Winning the Twins' Heart, and that's what we're going to talk about. The first book, though, let's plug it, is Loving the Rodeo Queen. There's Winning the Twins' Heart. There's Loving the Rodeo Queen. Because there's some characters in Loving the Rodeo Queen that show up in Winning the Twins' Heart, which is always fun. So worth the read. Let's see, where do we begin? Let's talk. I'm going to read your bio first, Rebecca, and then we'll get into the book here. All right. I love this. This is kind of fun. All right. All right. Rebecca Reed loves adventure, writing romantic tales filled with discovery, hope, and horses, springs from a lifetime of similar journeys and fulfills a lifelong calling as a storyteller. From riding racehorses to welding to teaching Spanish to traveling, she sees obstacles as challenges. Connect with Rebecca on her website at RebeccaReedWrites.com and social media to learn more about her writing. But Rebecca is also a lover of Jesus, animals, music, nature, and she might be found listening to audiobooks on her rural Indiana farm. As a wife, mother, and grandmother, she looks way too young to be a grandmother, with a huge fruit-eating canine, Ziva.
She's out
She's
there.
learned to embrace joy where she can find it in life's unexpected moments and inside a good story. Rebecca's dream is to bring God glory through fiction that delights readers with compelling, flawed characters who search for identity and purpose that reveals God's truth. And I think you've succeeded in that part, my friend.
Thanks.
That's for sure. So, all right, we're going to talk about you first. I'm doing things out of order because we do the book review first, but I'd rather talk to you. Let's dive right in
Okay.
here on this. Um, so did you always want to be a writer when you grew up?
Um, I did enjoy writing, and English was my favorite subject in school.
Mhm.
Um, so I was back in the day when we didn't have as many requirements for math and sciences in school as they do now. And I always tease my students because, there's always those ones who love math and there's the ones who hate math, but they all have to take math. And I'm like, I only had to take up to algebra 2 when I was in high school, and they're always like really jealous. Um, but I was an English person. I took every single English class. I took all the writing classes. I took all the short stories and novels classes. I took, drama. I did all of that.
Mhm.
So yes, I've always enjoyed writing, and I've always kind of been like a storyteller too. I even like to put myself asleep when I was young. Used to tell myself stories. And I had this really long, like, this is where I get this really long ongoing story that never ended, you see. So I think that's the problem when I started writing with my wordiness.
Or yeah, I've teased you in the past, sorry, about where you've had to cut down on words because
Yeah.
of your extensive writing. Um, in fact, you and I have the same history there, the love of English, and only had to go to a certain level of math
Hmm.
and things like that. So totally took all the short story classes
Yeah.
and fun stuff like that. Um, but let's go to the interesting stuff about you. I tease you about your love of horses. And at one time, were you not a jockey?
Yes, that was my dream. When anybody asked me, what are you going to do when you're older? Told everybody I'm going to be a jockey. That was the only thing I really wanted to do. Um, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's that like I want to be a pro foot athlete or something." Everybody was just like, "Oh, okay, that's nice." I wasn't kidding. That was really what I wanted to do. That was really the only thing I wanted to do. And so I did go to some classes when I was still in high school. We found like a summer class that taught people how to be like grooms and exercise riders and things like that. So I did get some experience. And we raised racehorses when I was younger. My dad was a breeder, and I broke them, and I've always been riding ever since I was 3. I've had a pony since I was 3, and I've been on horses ever since. Um, so yeah, and I did achieve my dream. I did go to college first though, and that was not in the plan. People were like, "You have to go to college." And I'm like, "I don't want to go to college." And they're like, "You need to go to college." And I'm like, "Fine, I will go to college." So I did. But after that, I moved to uh, Washington State and found a racehorse farm and worked my way up from a groom to an exercise rider to an apprentice jockey.
This is why horses resonate so much with you and in the books. And you can point out things authors write in the books that are wrong about horses if they put it in wrong or right. I mean, that's so extensive. Okay, so Washington State, but now you're in Indiana. So did you live a lot of places growing up or even in your adult life?
I lived in Indiana all the way through college, and then I
Oh,
moved to
okay.
Washington State. And then from there, following the horses, because Washington State, in the time I was there, which was in the 80s, the late 80s, was not very conducive to female riders. They did not
Hmm.
give female riders much of a shot. And so I followed the horses and the opportunities to Montana. And I lived in Montana. And I rode races in Montana. I rode some races in Washington too, but not very many. And so I went to Montana and I rode a lot of races in Montana. And so I rode 2 different tracks there. Neither of them exist now, but I rode in Great Falls and Billings. And
Mhm.
then I also rode at some smaller tracks in some different little bush track areas, some really small tracks, some really dangerous places to ride as well. I had my only riding accident, in a really small track in Missoula. Horse, they kind of all just collapsed in front of me, and my horse clipped their heels and flipped over and pile
Ooh.
drove me into the track. So I had a separated shoulder, partially separated, didn't completely pop out, but a partially separated shoulder, and I cracked 3 ribs.
Oh.
So that's the only injury I ever had in the whole time I was riding. Um, Yeah. So I was really fortunate, blessed. God was watching over me even then. Um, and yeah, I learned a lot. It was a fascinating experience. I got to meet Willie Shoemaker. So if you're a
Oh.
fan of racing, you'll know who he was. He was on his farewell tour at that time. He was retiring, and he came and rode. I didn't ride a race with him, but I sat in the jockey's room with him, and we shared lots of stories, and it was really interesting.
Oh,
So,
I bet it was. Even if you're not a horse fan, I know who Willie Shoemaker is.
yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
impressive. So that must have been interesting to hear some of his stories.
Oh my gosh. I could have just sat in there the entire day and just listened to him talk. I mean, it was fabulous. We did have to work that day though. He only rode one race. Oh, actually, he rode almost all the races. They kind of handpicked his rides though. It was kind of interesting to see that process as well. But I guess he deserved it after all the wins that he had. He wasn't going to come there and ride dangerous horses, which I don't blame him, because there are definitely some crazy ones on those tracks. But um, yeah, it was cool to do to ride in races with him, and to sit there in between and listen to the stories. And yeah,
That you wish you had a tape recorder.
I have a picture with him too. They
Oh,
took a
cool.
group picture with all the jockeys, and he was in it. So yeah.
Very, very cool. All right. So, how did you transition from horses? You are now a teacher, you teach Spanish, and you're back in Indiana. By the way, you've lived in beautiful states. So, I think Washington State is beautiful. I love Montana. I mean,
Hmm.
you live in beautiful places.
Yes, I have. I've been fortunate in that
Yeah.
too. So I went from Montana to Nebraska. I rode a little bit in Nebraska as well. And then it was winter. So, I moved back home. Um, and also I got married and I had a baby. And but I rode after that. So I went back to Montana after I had my first child, and I have some really cool pictures of her. She was born in Montana, and I have pictures of her in the jockey's room when she was, really small. 'Cause I went back to riding about 3 weeks after I had her. I rode a race 3 weeks after I had her.
Wow.
So, um, yeah. And she was in the jockey's room. They made her this cute little trunk, and we had little blankets in there for her, and people would watch her while I was out riding and everything. It was cool. The track was very much a family. It was very small, very much a family. Most everyone had like campers. We lived on the track itself, in a trailer. Yeah. It was like an extended camp out.
You'd make a great character for a book about this female jockey.
I
You'd be
have one.
fascinating.
I'm gonna publish it someday. I wrote
Well,
one.
see, you should,
I will.
especially coming back after giving birth and your mother riding, which in a fairly, as you said, you were only injured once, but cracked ribs and everything when you're a young mom would be terrible because you got to
Well,
lift
that
the
was
baby.
before. That was
I
before
know, but I'm
that.
thinking if that had happened
No.
after,
Yeah. I did
it's
fall. I did have one other fall, but I didn't get hurt
okay.
at all.
But didn't destroy your love of horses or riding or anything as far as you got right
No.
back on. The saying is true. You get right back on the
Yeah.
horse after
Yeah.
you after
Yeah.
your fall. Very good. Well, okay, we can dovetail into your books because this is just such a nice um, segue. Winning the Twins' Heart is really the book we're going to talk about, but of course we'll mention Loving the Rodeo Queen as well. But let's learn about Winning the Twins' Heart. And it's when contentment brings disaster and legacy trumps desire, can two people from different worlds build a future together? College rodeo roper Ioani Allegro, we're going to talk about names here, Allegro, can't stop looking over her shoulder despite, or maybe because of, her recent success. She longs for family, the one she lost and the one she hopes to have. When rejection shatters Ioani's sense of belonging and sends her running in search of truth, will it lead to the family she's dreamed of and freedom from her past, or will she discover she's left all of that in Montana? Bull rider Chance Naninga is caught between following his dream of teaching and upholding tradition by managing the family ranch. Should he settle for less than his dream or push forward when conquering his regrets could prevent him from winning Ioani's heart? And that's Winning the Twins' Heart. And we should mention Chance is a twin. So, no,
No.
Ioani's the
Yoani.
twin.
Yoani's the twin.
Ioani's the twin. Yeah, yeah. Chance has the big family, though.
Chance has a huge, he's the oldest of six, so
The
yes.
old, so okay, and Ioani has a twin brother.
Yeah.
That's in the story as well. Okay, let's get the name stuff out of the
All right.
way with the
All
names.
right.
All right, Rebecca teaches Spanish, so she has Spanish and native names in here. And in fact, Chance is named after one of your students.
Yes,
Um,
two students actually. I took the first name from one and the last name from another. So
so that's good. But
I did ask them first.
with permission, of course,
Yeah.
which I'm sure they'd be honored and thrilled
Yeah.
to be mentioned in a book. All right, but Chance Naninga is how I said it, but there is the alternate pronunciation.
Yes, the person that I took it from is they pronounce it Naninga. So they stress the first part of the word Naninga. But I have heard we have other families in this area that use that name as well, not in our school, but nearby, and they pronounce it Nanenga. So I think, I'm the author. I pick it out. I say them how I say them, but you're the reader. So however you hear it in your head is correct, in my opinion. Like it doesn't matter. And obviously, if you listen to an audiobook, which this isn't in audio at the moment, but I would like it to be. So that's upcoming, hopefully. But there that narrator is going to say it a certain way as well. And so those people are going to hear it that way.
Mhm.
To me, it doesn't matter. It's however you connect with the character. However you hear it, however you want to say it, it's fine. I did try to put some little pronunciation things in there
Good.
for Ioani and for her last name, Allegro, because a lot of people don't pronounce it correctly.
Right.
In the book, a lot of like the announcers, the rodeo announcers and whatnot called her Yoni.
Mhm.
That's what it looks like if you're an English speaker. Yoni.
Okay. Well, let's spell her. It's Yoani is the name we're talking about. I said Yanni in my head. Like you said, as the reader, I just picked something on that. And Allegro, the double L's, and I should know that. I lived in New Mexico for a while. I know the double L's are pronounced like a Y sound, even though I said it the way I said it. Allegro here.
Yeah.
All right. And the reason we bring this up, and I hope this doesn't sound like I've put Rebecca on the defensive. I have an issue with complicated names in books. But as Rebecca and I were talking earlier about this, she said it right. I'm the reader. So as readers, pronounce it the way you want to and don't get frustrated. Just pick one and keep moving with the story. I don't want names to pull people out of the story. And I think that's my own issue. I don't want to be so focused on the name that I'm forgetting about the story. So,
Yeah.
but healthy conversation here between writers, not putting you on the defensive, I hope, at
Oh,
all.
it's a
Um,
good point. And I mean, I read a lot of fantasy, and I think anybody that's read fantasy is going to be very, you just kind of have to, I think that's where my philosophy comes from. You just
yeah,
have to pick something and go with it because who knows? Unless they provide a pronunciation guide for you, like
yeah.
it's just a free-for-all. Like pick what you like, whatever sounds good to you, and just use it. It doesn't really matter. It's the same
Right.
person, it's the same character. So it doesn't matter. And then when you're friends and you get together to talk about it, you can argue about how to say it. It's fun.
Fun, huh? Yeah, well,
It can
okay.
be.
We can
Or it could,
discuss how to say it.
yeah, whatever.
Whatever. That's good. All right. Just wanted to bring that up because it was an honest discussion that Rebecca and I had earlier, and it may be relevant. And again, I had never heard that. Just pick one. The author. Some authors may care. I don't know. That's what I get
Uh,
concerned
Maybe
about.
they
But
do. I think I might have used to, but I've kind of realized and now that I've been more involved with the author world, like
Mhm,
it really doesn't matter.
sure. Yeah.
It doesn't.
Um, and your suspense and I mean your fantasy analogy and the speculative is good because those are usually complicated names, and I have seen pronunciation guides in books and things like that. But otherwise, you kind of just have to do it, as you hear it, so to
Yeah.
speak, as you read it in your head. So I think it's good. All right, for winning the twins' heart, this is interesting because you've got, like you said, Chance is the oldest of six, and he's got this big, loud, boisterous family. I'm, picturing on this ranch, but yet traditional because he's the eldest son and is supposed to go run the family ranch when he has other dreams. And then you have Yanni and her brother, her twin brother, who basically orphans and lost what family they had. Don't want to give spoilers of why they're kind of
Well, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that they were raised, excuse me, they were raised by their grandmother, the
mother.
abuela,
Mhm.
because there was danger. Her father's family basically is was part of the Cuban mafia. To put it, I mean that's
Okay,
not
you're the author. You can tell us what you want.
yeah.
So.
And so there was danger
Mhm.
involved, and they thought they were okay, and then some things happened and it got dangerous. And so the grandmother took the two children and moved to Tennessee because it was for safety purposes. And then some worse things happened, and then their parents were killed. And so they ended up with grandmother, and grandmother was grandmother. I mean, and they lived with her, and then she died of a heart attack. And so, but they were always felt like they were running, from this group, the Maloperos. They were always running from them. They were always looking over their shoulder.
Mhm.
Are they gonna find us? Are they gonna do something? Are they,
Well, and you allude to that in the back cover copy because it says, she longs for looking over her shoulder, maybe because of her success. So as she's getting more well known in the rodeo world, which is where this takes place, in Montana, and college roping and rodeo and things like that. Really another cool world to explore in your horse world. Um, but she's getting well known. She's quite good, but she's, I don't know, she's almost afraid to put herself out there because she's been taught to stay hidden.
Mhm.
And again, she's kind of without a family except for her brother, who for twins, maybe not as close as they should be. um, and so she's drawn to the family that is created with the rodeo world, with the team effort at the university, and she's longing for that but still holds herself back. And so it's quite interesting how Chance is one way and he's gregarious and he's out there and she's hidden away, and yet they're going to find a way to come together because this is a romance. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and
There's
I
a
don't
happily
think you're
ever
preaching there.
after.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's contemporary romance, and very sweet, and we like it. But it's interesting how you bring those two characters who are so diverse
Hmm.
um, together.
Yeah, that was kind of the point. I wanted to write like an opposites attract kind of story. Um, and I was like, okay, so what would be the opposite of, a ranch, down to earth kind of
Mhm.
blonde, big rodeo guy, and I thought, well, Cuban American immigrant's daughter, you know,
Yeah.
Roper. Yeah, with a shady past, kind of, so to speak. Not
Mhm.
shady on her part, but like something to look over her shoulder, and
Right.
so yeah.
Yeah. No, and I loved how you did bring him together, how even reluctant, but when um, she ended up with his family over the holidays and was thrust into, again, this boisterous gang. I could so relate to Chance's family.
It was
Um,
fun. That
and
was fun. The Christmas scenes were
mhm,
really fun to write, and
I bet.
with the whole group, and you get to know the whole family a little bit. I also like the restaurant scene where they were, or right after they were at the football game. The football game scene was
Mhm,
fun to write too,
mhm.
and they had
Yeah.
a family dinner kind of afterwards, and
Mhm. And
yeah,
it's well done with presenting the family, and you're like, I'm right into it. It's like I'm sitting right next to him. We're all having fun, being part of the family, which I like when I feel like I'm in the book,
mm,
where I'm in Montana, or I can visualize things so well. So I like this. Now Chance is somewhat conflicted because he does have a dream that is quite different than what his father expects him to do. Again, as the oldest running the ranch, and again, it's laid out that it's the oldest son that has to
yeah.
take care of the ranch, or there's a possibility they'll lose the ranch. Is that too much of a
No,
spoiler?
I think I mean, I don't think that's told pretty early in the book, and it's pretty much part of the
Sorry.
main like conflict between
Mm,
he wants to be a teacher, he
no.
feels called to be a teacher, but he feels guilty because he's the oldest. And then he's like, okay, and he has this whole conflict about talking to his dad. And I think that's relatable too. I think
Oh
sons
yeah.
sometimes, especially when they don't want to they follow that line, follow that family line. It's like, oh gosh, how am I going to tell them? How am I going to tell my parents that I don't want to do this after all they've done for me, and all the things, the legacy, and and
Mhm.
then there's his brothers and sisters to think about as well. And then they find out, yeah, there's like legal stuff involved. And so I'm not going to say any more than that. I think
No, and I don't, and I didn't mean to give away a spoiler
that's
there, but
okay.
it was a nice, like, wait, there's more to it. Just when you think, oh, it's just the oldest son and he's having a hard time talking to his father, and that's so relatable and so true, and you did a good job um revealing, how Chance was feeling about this. And you can almost feel the tightness in his gut every time you thought about it. And then, yeah, here's the extra layer. It's all good writers should do. It's not just there, oh wait, there's something more. and it goes deeper than that. And so very well done with that. But Chance is this big, strong, but very kind-hearted man. I mean, you paint him as a big man. I
Yeah,
mean,
he's a big guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
and stuff, and but just sweet like a teddy bear though.
Yeah,
And
he's definitely a cinnamon roll hero from what I understand about the term. I had never heard
okay,
that. I had
I
never
haven't
heard that
either.
before, and I was like, somebody described their character that, and I had to look it up. And I so it's just that it's the kind-hearted. It's like the opposite of the alpha male type hero. You've got the alpha male heroes who are like always in charge, always, like pretending they know everything, whether they
Mhm.
do or not,
Right.
and still kind and all that underneath, but like presenting that image. Chance doesn't really try to pretend he's big and bad and tough. He's outwardly kind and very always wanting to help other people. He's very much a servant, and that's
Yeah.
what really is the conflict between wanting to do what he wants versus what others want, because he's really a servant. And so for him to decide to do what he wants is not in his nature. He has always sacrificed for the others and done what others. And that's part of his Black Mamba, his dark story
Yeah.
as well, because he failed and he still feels that, he still
Yeah.
feels that failure even years later and blames himself, and
Yeah.
keeps really um
Reliving
holding
an
on
event
to that.
from
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
childhood that where he really
Yeah.
felt like he failed as the oldest sibling, you know, because you
Yeah.
always feel like as you're oldest, you're in charge of all your younger siblings. Well, speaking of his siblings, his brother tries to be a voice of reason and tries to encourage him to be honest with their father. And I liked the brother a lot. I liked their conversations.
Yeah,
Um,
Axel, I enjoyed Axel. He's the football player, um, son, and he's the third son.
third oldest, right?
Third son, yes. Because Chance and Briar, who is the second son, had issues. Let's
Mhm.
just say.
There's some
But
history there.
Axel, yeah, there's some history there. And Axel is the one that goes to the same school, and he does. He's the preacher, so to speak.
Yes.
And that annoys people to some degree because he's always got a Bible verse for everything. You know people like that, right? They're always got some, and Chance is like, yeah, but I want to know more than just what the Bible
Yeah.
says about it. I want to. But he does. He does a good job. He's definitely a truth teller, to Chance, and helps him kind of put some things in perspective too that he didn't
That he
really.
might not have thought about. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, and then there's a spunky little sister who, but it's going to be an attorney or something. She's smart and she's spunky and
he's
she
gonna be an architect. Yeah,
fixer. It should be an
Paisley.
attorney the way her brain works.
Oh my gosh, she could be anything. She's a genius. Uh, she was interesting too because like, how do I make her be, genius level thought but still be likable? Because like sometimes those kind of people are not the most
Right.
friendly or outward thinking, other thinking people. They're kind of self-centered because they just are running so far
Mhm.
ahead of everybody. But I like Paisley. She's a lot of fun.
She was fun. Yeah.
The
Well
only girl.
done for genius level, but she was fun. So,
Yeah.
no, very likable, very, and she likes Yanni. I'm gonna say Yanni. I'm gonna say it the way,
Fun.
but she likes her a lot and is I don't know, kind of like pushing this romance between them. And so she's very fun in that way, doing that. Um, Yanni learns a lot through this book, and I like the journey you take her on, even out of Montana. Don't want to give spoilers away, but um,
Yes.
she has to go kind of find out for herself
Hmm.
things about her family and things, and to learn, is the danger still there and things like that. And she does this without her brother, so there's good conflict between her and her twin, who have gone through all of this together. So they're bonded and they're tight and always will be, but they're each going through stuff right now, and they're not as close as they used to be.
No, which is a struggle for Ioane because I mean, he's older by 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I think it's
He's
2 minutes.
very protective of her at first.
There's a lot
Too.
of, yeah, there's a lot of like I'm the older one, but yet
Mhm.
we're twins, and she's like, yeah, but, and I think she feels the like guilty for not like being as close to him as what she thinks they ought to be. There's like some, but then he's just kind of choosing his own way.
He's choosing his own path. He still said protective of her at first, especially giving Chance the evil
Oh,
eye. And I'm
yeah.
sorry, I
Oh,
had to,
yeah.
you
He's
know,
very, very much not in favor of Chance, um,
um,
for
of
several
the,
reasons.
but then he's still kind of going his own way, and
Yeah.
even hanging around people where his sister is, Ioane's scratching her head like, what are you doing with this
Yeah.
crew, and
Yeah.
with this person? And so, and she's struggling a lot. She's got a lot of internal thing, and I just felt her heart wanting a family, wanting to not be so alone anymore. And yet, with her brother giving like Chance the evil eye, and I don't know. I felt her conflict. I
Well,
just
oh, good. That's
wanted to go
good.
give her a hug.
Yeah, she needed those. That's what Paisley was for, right? Paisley
Yeah,
and Quinn too. Quinn was
yeah.
her kind of mentor. Um, she needed that. She needed that connection, and
Mhm.
Quinn was the heroine of the first book, Loving the Rodeo Queen. So she carries
Hoping you were
over
going to mention that. Yes.
in more of a mentor role in this story because she has her hero, and
Which you can read about in Loving the Rodeo Queen.
yeah.
When, because
Yeah.
of her past, that is mentioned in the first book, you don't necessarily have to read them in order, but it's kind of
No.
nice to know more about Quinn and stuff because of her past and what she went through in the first book. It really does make her a wise voice of reason,
Yeah.
and someone that Ioane can really count on. But Ioane still has to believe that she can truly count on someone,
Yeah,
and she
and
doesn't.
part of
She doesn't trust.
yeah, no, she doesn't trust anybody, and that's partly because of her upbringing with her abuela and them always just not being able to make friends. They didn't even go to public school for several years. They were homeschooled because abuela was terrified that they'd be found, even though they
Right.
changed their names and there was a lot of things, um, which I think is part of Lalo, her twins' conflict is the whole loss of identity. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and but um yeah, so Quinn takes her under, Ioane under her wing. She's very protective of her as well, but they're also roping partners.
Oh,
So they
yeah. Yeah.
have that bond too, but Ioane still doesn't understand why she chose her to be her partner because she's like, you're so much better than I am. I'm not. And yet, there was like a whole bond there that Ioane has to grow into that relationship
Yeah.
as
Well,
well.
especially with the roping partner, because you can't have one without the other. They can't
Yeah.
do, and they're quite successful, and the team could win the championship, but they got to stay bonded as a team in order
Mhm.
to win. So,
Yes.
um, quite good. So through all of this, there's a love story brewing, by the way,
Yeah.
talking about all the conflict, but how Chance and Ioane grow together, and I really love this because in a sense they are going to encourage each other. These are kind of two broken people with their own issues, and they're coming together. And as love should do, it heals, and it's healing.
Yes. And that's kind of the whole part of the story that I wanted to make sure I wrote that, you can, despite your past, no matter, what it is, there's gonna, if you trust in God, and trust was a big part of the
Mhm.
first book, Loving the Rodeo Queen, was all about trusting God and trusting each other. This one
Mhm.
was kind of about doing the next right thing. That was the big thing in this one was, you don't always know what the whole path is going to look like.
Right.
you can take the
Mhm.
next step. You just need to take the next step. Figure out the next step and try to, as best you can, determine the right way to go as you can see it right now and take that step. Standing still isn't really an option. And that
No.
was Ioani's problem. I think she was stuck, and Chance kind of too, in a way. They were both
Yeah.
stuck. And
Yeah.
so they each had to learn that they needed to move forward, even if that was only one step, and then the next, and then the next. And so that was kind of what I was trying to go for in the story, was just to show that even when you don't know what's coming, even when you can't see very far ahead, just take that next step. And then perhaps in a little bit, the next one will be visible and you can take that one. And you just can't stay static. Static doesn't gain you anything. You don't learn anything when you're static. You have to risk. And
Yeah.
they were both terrified to risk.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Nice wrap up. I think that works. This is winning the twins' heart and about Ioani and Chance. And I think it's a story worth reading because there's some depth to it and how they solve the issues and how they take the next step and keep trusting God. And you are succeeding in your goal to write books that are God trusting. Now, is there a third book in this coming up?
Yes.
Did you pick one of the side characters?
Yes, I'm going to redeem one of the characters that is not the most
She's not.
outstanding in this story. She was in both of the books, as a matter of fact, kind of a
Yeah.
just background character. Um, so yes, the third one um, will be it's called Redeeming the Banker's Daughter. And yeah. So
Mhm.
we'll get to hear about some more familiar people. There's a familiar character, and then the hero is not in either of these books, but his grandfather, and you've heard his name. He's a Logan. So the facility where all the horses stay, Logan and Marchand, we're hearing about both sides, the Logan side and the Marchand side, because Genevieve is the heroine. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So good. As if anyone hasn't read Loving the Rodeo Queen or Winning the Twins' Heart, and they'll see Genevieve sprinkled through these books, then
Yeah.
they can look forward to Redeeming the Banker's Daughters. Do you have a timeline for that when you're hoping to have that? If
Mm,
not, it's okay. We'll
I would
publicize
like
it.
I would like to have it this summer, but I'm not sure how that's going to work. I do have a novella coming out in a collection though later this in the early fall, like September, October. We
Mhm.
don't have a definitive date yet,
Okay.
but September, October. And that one has the photographer from Quinn and Tiago's engagement is the main character in that
Mhm.
story.
And
Yeah.
didn't you briefly mention her in
Yes, Olivia. Olivia is
is
her
it
name.
Olivia or is it Oliva? It's
It's so her real name is Oliva, but she goes by Olivia because it's easier because surrounded by non-Spanish speaking people most of the time, and they all just called her Olivia. And so she just added the I. Her mother was not thrilled.
no, because Oliva is I believe it or not, and I meant to tell you this off camera, but I'm going to tell you here publicly. I have an aunt, Oliva,
Oh, yeah, it's
from my
Olive.
very German speaking
Oh,
family. So it wasn't Spanish, it was
okay.
German. But
Yeah.
13 kids. I guess they're running out of daughters' names. I don't know. But I had an Aunt Oliva, and she and I shared a birthday. So she was always special to
Oh,
me. So when I read that name, I was tickled because, again,
yeah.
everyone says
Yeah.
Olivia or it's not common. So thank you. You didn't even know that.
Yes. No, I didn't. Yeah. So yeah, Oliva is her real name. Yeah. All of her siblings have cooking names. Her mother is a she runs a restaurant, a Cuban restaurant in Florida.
Oh, how fun.
So we're going
Yeah.
to
Okay.
Florida.
So good. So this still kind of all ties in. Oh, I can't wait to read the novella then. So just for the name alone,
Yep.
just to do that. Very good. All right. Well, again, the book is Winning the Twins' Heart. by the lovely and talented Rebecca Reed. Rebecca, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So anyway, pick up the book today, and you can learn more about Rebecca on your website, and tell everyone your website and your social media so they can keep up with you.
It's RebeccaReedWrites.com. And you can find me on Instagram at Rebecca Reed Writes and the same on Facebook.
Okay. Very good. Rebecca Reed writes, and she is writing, and we look forward to reading more of your works as they come out this fall. We're going to pretty much
Yeah,
say this fall. Yeah.
definitely for sure that one, and hopefully the other one as well, but we'll see. I've only written chapter one, so we'll see.
Oh, well, then you've got some work to do, but you did
Yeah,
just finish school. You are a teacher, so let's give
true.
you a break here to do that. All right, next month in July, we are going to Many Lives Ranch, and that is a book by Barbara Ellen Fox. And yeah, we liked that one too.
Yeah,
That
we
had
get to
a
go
lot
to
of
Texas. There's more horses. It's
more
fantastic.
horses than we're in Texas, so
Oh,
both
just
of
in
us are
Texas.
happy.
Yes.
So we're both liking this. So join us next month. Meanwhile, find us on social media, and like and subscribe. We're at RebeccaandRebecca.com. It's a place to
Yes.
find all our social media. We are on Instagram at Rebecca and Rebecca Reviews, Facebook page. Anyway, you can find us. There's not that
Yeah.
many Rebecca and Rebeccas out there and stuff, but RebeccaandRebecca.com is a great starting point. And we like comment, please comment, please message us. We will respond to everything. So we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, if you have a book that you'd like us to review, let us know, or something you'd like to see, different genres that you'd like to hear us review and discuss, and authors that you'd like us to interview. We're open to all those suggestions. So please feel free to let us know.
Very good. Yep, we are very accessible. So good enough. Thanks again, Rebecca, for letting us talk about your book
Well, I
today.
appreciate it. Thank you.
We enjoyed it. All right, everyone, join us next month for more books and more interviews, and we'll see you next time.
Okay. Bye.